I looked over at the photograph of Annie on the table and then back at Annie, and her face looked different now. It was like a horrible mask or something. I started freaking out inside, but I tried to hold it in and not let it show. I just acted normal, as if nothing had happened. I tried to put it out of my mind and just think of Annie as the person that I had first met. I went with Jack to the hospital every day. Sometimes I saw the old man and Sarah over there, and sometimes just Jack and I were there. Jack told me that Annie was going to need plastic surgery on her face and oral surgery to replace her missing teeth. He didn't know where his family was going to get the money for all of that stuff, as well as the back surgery and the hospital visit. They didn't have enough insurance to cover everything. The old man's broke, Jack said. He's up to his neck in debt for all the equipment. How much will it cost? About $5,000, Jack said. Shit, I said, we've got to do something. What can we do? Jack asked. I honestly don't know, I said. The next day, Jack and I were sitting in Bobby's room, and Buddy appeared with a bell jar that was a quarter full of what looked like pot. A friend of mine from Binghamton went to Jamaica and gave me this, he stated. He poked his hand into the jar, pulled out a handful of marijuana, and placed it on the table. Then he took out a package of rolling papers. Buddy was the best joint roller I had ever seen. He took one rolling paper, sprinkled a small amount of pot in the center of the paper, lifted it up gently between two fingers, brought his other hand around so that the paper was held from both ends, and in a flash, the joint was rolled. Then he licked the gluey strip that lay horizontally along the paper, pressed it down onto the joint, turned the joint lengthwise and put it in his mouth, closing his lips around it, and then he pulled the joint back out, covered with saliva. The saliva dried quickly, and what was left was a perfect joint. The paper meshed together instantly. It was like magic. Bobby's eyes lit up, and thus began a binge that lasted for the better part of a week. The Jamaican pot was so potent that it produced a purity of the mind, an intensity that wasn't so much pleasure as it was intellectual stimulation. I really enjoyed smoking this stuff and listening to the Moody Blues, especially The Best Way to Travel and Legend of a Mine from In Search of the Lost Chord. One night, Jack and I were smoking the Jamaican pot and listening to Henry by the New Riders of the Purple Sage, and Jack said, "Let's make a pact." I waited in anticipation. "Let's go to Jamaica," Jack said. "When?" I queried. "Over Christmas vacation," he said. So we shook hands on it, a soul handshake, which really meant something in those days. As long as the Jamaican pot was there, everything was all right with Bobby. But as soon as it was used up, Bobby freaked out. He embarked on a search for an equivalent, but nothing worked. Not the Mexican stuff, not the Colombian. That's when Jack told Bobby about our plan to go to Jamaica. "You guys can't go down there without me," Bobby said. Buddy was sitting right next to Bobby at the time, and he said, "All right, guys, I'm in."